Ladies and gentlemen, kindly please be seated. With the permission of the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan, shall I begin? Thank you, Your Honor. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon. On behalf of the Law and Justice Commission of Pakistan, it is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome you all to the National Conference on Prison Reform. Today, we gather with a shared purpose, to reaffirm that justice system is measured not only by the fairness of its court, but also by the humanity of its correctional institutions. We are privileged by the gracious presence of the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan, Honorable Judges of the Supreme Court, the Honorable Chief Justices and Judges of the High Courts, Honorable Federal Minister for Law and Justice, Honorable Chief Ministers, the respected Attorney General for Pakistan, Federal Secretaries and the Chief Secretaries, distinguished representatives of the international organization, members of the diplomatic corps, respected members of the legal fraternity, and our esteemed guests. Your presence reflects a collective national commitment to advancing a prison system that is founded on justice, dignity, and rehabilitation. Welcome to the Supreme Court of Pakistan. To seek the blessing of Allah Almighty, I respectfully invite Qari Najm Mustafa to recite verses from the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يوفون بالنذر يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا إنا نخاف من ربنا إنما نطعمكم لوجه نخاف من ربنا يوما عبوسا قمطريرا إنا نخاف من ربنا يوما عبوسا قمطريرا صدق الله العظيم. अल्लाह रब्बुल इज़्ज़त के नाम से शुरू जो निहायत मेहरबान हमेशा रहम फरमाने वाला है। वो अपने वादों को पूरा करते हैं और उस दिन से डरते हैं जिसकी सख्ती हर तरफ फैली हुई होगी। और वो अल्लाह की मोहब्बत में मोहताज, यतीम और कैदी को खाना खिलाते हैं और कहते हैं हम तुम्हें सिर्फ अल्लाह की रज़ा के लिए खिलाते हैं, हम तुमसे ना कोई बदला चाहते हैं और ना शुक्रिया। बेशक हम अपने रब की तरफ से आने वाले इस सख्त और हौलनाक दिन से डरते हैं। व आखिर दावाना अनिल हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन।
Jazakallah khair. May Allah Almighty guide us in our deliberations. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request everyone to kindly rise for the national anthem. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. To formally welcome our distinguished guest, it is my privilege to invite Captain Retired Mushtaq Ahmed, Secretary, Law and Justice Commission of Pakistan. Sir.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan, Honorable Federal Minister for Law and Justice, Honorable Chief Ministers, Honorable Judges, Excellencies, respected guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and very warm and good afternoon. On behalf of Law and Justice Commission of Pakistan, it's my privilege and honor to welcome you all to this national conference on prison reforms, which is held under the theme of Justice, Dignity, and Reform. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference reflects the vision of Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan in his capacity as a chairman of Law and Justice Commission and National Judicial Policy Making Committee to initiate a comprehensive prison reform process through an inclusive and consultative process. Honorable guests, the reform journey started with consultation involving all the key stakeholders, including the federal government, the provincial governments, the judiciary, the law enforcement agencies, prison authorities, and most importantly, the civil society. Today, we are here and we are honored that all these stakeholders are together here, have gathered under a platform to share their insights, exchange ideas, and collectively shape a practical roadmap for the prison reforms in Pakistan. Honorable guests, your presence here today demonstrates our shared commitment to advancing prison system that upholds justice, protects human dignity, and promotes meaningful rehabilitation for the prisoners. Once again, at the end, I sincerely thank all our distinguished guests for their presence and gracing this occasion with their contributing the important national endeavor. I shall wish that all of us conclude a productive conference under this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, leadership inspires reform. It is now my distinct honor and privilege to request and invite the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan, Chairman, Law and Justice Commission of Pakistan, and Chairman, the National Judicial Policy Making Committee, to kindly come forward and deliver the keynote address.
Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Respected Federal Minister for Law and Justice, respected Chief Ministers, respected judges, respected members of the diplomatic corps and development partners, respected representatives of the provincial governments, respected members of the bar, civil society, respected members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I would first like to share with you two anecdotes that have had a profound impact on my understanding of the criminal justice system in general and the prison rights in particular. The first relates to my days in the university when, while attending a course on prisoners' rights, my university professor was explaining the facilities that are provided to more advanced European jurisdictions. Half in jest, I remarked that if such facilities are provided in Pakistan, many might willingly choose prison. The professor paused and said something I have never forgotten. He said, "Punishment is denial of freedom. Beyond that, the prisoner must not suffer." That remark, ladies and gentlemen, speaks directly of the issue that we are to deliberate upon today. Moving on to the next incident, which is not too long ago. After assuming office of the Chief Justice of Pakistan, in one of my visits, I visited the central jail of Dera Ismail Khan. While walking through the barracks, I spoke with a death row inmate who had been convicted to death. And I asked him a few questions which would normally be asked by an inspecting judge. I asked him, "Do you have clean drinking water? Do you have adequate food? Do you have access to health care? In response, he looked at me and without hesitation said, "Sir, I do not need food, water to drink, or health care. Please ensure that my death appeal pending in the court since 2017 is decided." Ladies and gentlemen, that was not an inmate addressing his Chief Justice. It was one human being asking the other whether the system responsible for his life had remembered him at all or had forgotten about him. You can imagine the impact it had on me. You'll be pleased to know, I will give you some positive information also, that when we embarked on this journey to address death appeals, we had cases pending of death appeals filed in 2015. And by the grace of God, we've been able to decide 606 cases, death appeals, till 30th of June 2026. Wait. You'll also be pleased to know that all cases filed prior to 31st of December 2025 have been decided, barring 3 cases which are fixed for Monday and Tuesday. 70 cases were filed after 1st of January 2026 till 30th, out of which 52 cases have been decided. We are left with 19. Very encouraging, but not enough. We have a long journey to go, but there is positive response coming from the courts. Now to why we are all together. Prisons, as we know, are constitutionally a provincial subject. The responsibility for prison administration rests with the provincial governments. The Constitution mandates that. This conference, therefore, is not for the judiciary setting goals or extending or redefining the limits of prison facilities. What this gathering truly represents is an opportunity for the provincial governments to come together under one roof, by choice and by shared responsibility, to address the challenge that affects not only the prison administration, no, but the functioning and credibility of the criminal justice system as a whole. This effort, which transcends beyond political divide, deserves earnest commendation. I sincerely thank each one of you. There's no doubt about that. Ladies and gentlemen, over the course of my judicial career, I have come to understand that the true measure of criminal justice system is not found solely in the courtroom or in judgments. If one wishes to assess whether the criminal justice system is functioning effectively, its strengths, its weaknesses, and the remedies required, one must look beyond statistics and just visit a prison. Prisons are the end point of the criminal justice process. They are the culmination of what commenced with the commission of that offense. How did the investigation proceed with the investigation? How did the prosecutors prosecute? How did the judiciary administer justice in coming to the conclusion? They expose the system's broader philosophies, its shortcomings, its abilities or inabilities to balance justice, public safety, and human dignity. As for judicial accountability is concerned, I do not stand here claiming that the criminal justice system is delivering perfectly. I'm not doing that. I'm very clear in that. We have judges duly conducting jail inspections, criminal justice coordination committee meeting regularly. But yet these mechanisms have not produced the outcome aligning with the urgency of the problem. We must acknowledge this plainly, because reform begins with honesty. But accountability does not rest on one institution alone. Criminal justice system functions in a chain. If one link is missing, the burden shifts to the other, and ultimately it leaves lasting scars on the prison. As institution in charge of the administration of criminal justice, we must all recognize that we are responsible for human lives, lives that matter, and lives that we are answerable for. As Chief Justice of Pakistan, who chairs the Apex Judicial Policy Making Committee, the NJPMC. Ladies and gentlemen, NJPMC is a policy making body which has all the Chief Justices of Pakistan, of the High Courts, as members, and the chairman is the Chief Justice of Pakistan. That's where we sit down and we contemplate and decide and determine and recommend. It is a recommendatory body where we recommend what policy is to be adopted. Now, when I became the chairman of this committee, two fundamental issues had to be addressed. First, why, despite regular judicial inspections and statutory reporting system which were in place, cases continue to remain pending beyond reasonable period? Why? One. Two, why statutory grievance redressal mechanism within prisons are not functioning effectively, forcing inmates to seek relief from courts? The systems are there, everything is in place. There was a disconnect. What is that disconnect? Now, it was in this context that we decided that we should have a 3-member committee for each province. 2 parliamentarians, 1 from the opposition, 1 from the treasury, both having served time in prison, and 1 promising young lawyer to assist them as coordinators in their visits to jails and in recommending in drafting their recommendations. Well, visits were done, recommendations were filed, they reached the NJPMC. We passed them on to the provincial governments. We said, these are the recommendations. Please, it is up to you how you want to proceed with it. We identified the systemic issues which required to be addressed. I must acknowledge and thank not only the parliamentarians, but also the coordinators of the committee for each province in their time, insight, and commitment devoted to this cause. If I may, I want to name for the province of Balochistan, Ms. Shakir Bibi, Mr. Haroon Bilal Sharif, for the province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Ms. Aisha Bano for the province of Punjab, Ms. Amina Qadir for the province of Sindh, Ms. Haya Iman Zahid. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference for the first time has brought all provinces under one roof. Not to assign blame, but to accept shared responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very easy for the judiciary to point fingers at the executive, or for the executive to point fingers at the judiciary, or for one provincial government to point fingers at the other. No, we are not to do that. The National Prison Reform Action Plan represents a collective recognition that piecemeal efforts are not enough. What is required is concerted coordination and cohesive commitment. I urge every institution represented here to seriously attend to the pulse of the criminal justice system. That pulse, ladies and gentlemen, is found in our prison. Reform the prisons, the criminal justice system will reform itself. Ladies and gentlemen, I once again extend my sincere gratitude to each one of you for joining us today. Let us resolve that our criminal justice system remains grounded in human dignity and build a system for future generation to be proud of. Inshallah, Pakistan, Paindabad, thank you.
Thank you, Your Lordship, for an inspiring address and for setting the tone for today's deliberations. Ladies and gentlemen, vision must follow the action. So to present the National Prison Reform Action Plan, I now have the honor to invite the Chairperson, National Commission for Human Rights.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan, Honorable Minister for Law and Justice, Honorable Chief Ministers, Secretary of Law and Justice Commission, DG Reforms, judges of the Supreme and the High Courts, distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum. Let me begin first by expressing my gratitude to the Honorable Chief Justice, Justice Yahya Afridi, for convening this conference and for recognizing that prison reform requires the collective leadership of every single institution present in this room today. Nelson Mandela once said, "No one truly knows a nation until you have been inside its jails." A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but how it treats its lowest ones. Mandela's words remind us that prisons are more than places of detention. Prisons are places where the promises of our constitutions are tested. Prisons are places where our commitment to justice and to human dignity is revealed. And it is in that spirit that I would like to begin, not with statistics, but with the lives of the people behind them. Mazhar Hussain was sentenced to death in 1997. He spent 17 years in jail. He died of a heart attack in jail custody in 2014. He was acquitted as innocent by the Supreme Court in 2016, 2 years after his death. Muhammad Iqbal, arrested at the age of 17, spent 21 years in jail before the court realized that he had been a juvenile at the time of the offense and released him 2 decades later. While Iqbal waited in prison, Pakistan saw 6 prime ministers come and go. Facebook was invented. Smartphones changed the world. An entire generation of Pakistanis was born, grew up, and became an adult. When justice arrives after 21 years, can we actually call it justice? Mazhar Hussain, Muhammad Iqbal are not isolated cases. Asma Nawab, Ghulam Abbas, Muhammad Ansar, different provinces, different offenses, different lives, but the same outcome. Justice came too late. And that is why we have to all ask ourselves a very uncomfortable question. How many more prisoners like Mazhar Abbas are still waiting in our jails? The answer is both simple and sobering. Pakistan's prisons hold more than 113,000 people, despite having a capacity for less than 69,000 prisoners. Our jails operate at 164% occupancy. But perhaps the most important point is this. Nearly 3 out of 4 of our prisoners in Pakistan's jails has not been convicted of a crime. They are under trial. They are waiting for investigation, waiting for bail, waiting to be produced before court. They are all waiting for justice. Every province in Pakistan has a similar pattern. As chairperson of the National Commission for Human Rights, Pakistan's independent statutory human rights body, I have had the opportunity to see our prisons from the inside. In the exercise of my mandate, and here I would like to pause to acknowledge the Honorable Minister of Law and Justice for consistently respecting our Commission's independence and for giving us the institutional space to undertake our work both objectively and without interference. Through hundreds of jail inspections, through investigations, through a detailed review of the federal and provincial prison reports prepared by the prison reform committees under the NJPMC, one conclusion has become unmistakably clear. Our prisons are filling up faster than they are emptying. And this is due really to three fundamental issues. First is our approach to drug offenses. Some 25,000 inmates, nearly 1 in 4 of all the under trial prisoners, is held under narcotics law. Many are accused of possession of low-level transportation rather than organized trafficking. With a national conviction rate of as low as 3%, thousands of these people continue to spend months in custody. And the situation has become more acute after the amendments in 2022 of CNSA, which have restricted access to bail, parole, and other non-custodial measures. The second factor for overcrowding is the criminalization of poverty. Too many people are imprisoned not because they present a danger to society. They are in jail because they cannot afford cash bail. They cannot afford sureties. These are people accused of petty theft, street vending, begging, minor offenses, and particularly children in informal labor. Today, in direct violation of the JJSA, the Juvenile Justice Systems Act, despite the alternate provision of diversion, over 3,000 children of Pakistan are in jails throughout the country. And here they will remain for years in a system that fails to differentiate what is a minor mischief and what is a serious offense. I came across the other day a boy who was in jail for 6 months because he had stolen a parrot. He was under trial. During our visits to juvenile detention centers, we also found that 90% of these kids had no access to a lawyer, and that extends their stay. The third issue that faces our prisons is delay. With prison systems overpopulated, overwhelmed, when new punitive laws are being passed every day, it is but logical that justice will be delayed. More than 669 criminal cases are pending. We have approximately 3,000 lower court judges, and the backlog is 1.86 million. Every adjournment, every delayed production, every unnecessary remand, every postponed appeal is another day of freedom lost. Honorable Chief Justice, if we forget the purpose of prison, we lose sight of the purpose of justice. Prisons were never meant to become warehouses for people waiting for a system to catch up. They were never meant to store the poor, the vulnerable, the mentally ill, children, or those who are not yet guilty. Prisons were made to protect society, to hold people accountable, and wherever possible to reform and rehabilitate. We know what is filling up our prisons, and we know what can be done to reduce it. If we are serious about reform, we have to change 3 things. First, we have to rethink who we imprison. Prison should be reserved for those who are genuinely threatening society, not for low-level drug offenders, people suffering from addiction, or those who need treatment rather than incarceration. We need to restore probation, parole, remission in appropriate cases. We need to distinguish personal use from trafficking. We need to expand diversion to community service. We need to fast-track narcotics cases. Prison should be the last resort, not a default, response. Second, we must stop imprisoning people because they are poor. Poverty is not a crime. Liberty should not depend on your bank balance. Inability to furnish bail should not be a path for jail. For low-level, non-violent offenses, we need to move to all mandatory bail, personal sureties, community service, and diversion. JJSA has already provided us these tools. And thirdly, we must bring justice to prison rather than make the prisoners wait for justice. We've seen the issue of transportation, particularly in this really hot weather. And so if a prisoner can't reach the courtroom has to reach the prison. Countries facing challenges similar to ours have demonstrated that this is possible. Ghana did a program called Justice for All, which introduced a prison decongestion program, whereby full mobile courts viewed cases in prison. Pakistan already has a model of its own in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Civil Mobile Court Act, and building on these, we recommend regular and timely court hearings in prison, specially focused on juveniles, on women, and on persons charged under blasphemy laws. But reducing numbers alone cannot be our ambition. Overcrowding has consequences, and these extend beyond just confined space. Overcrowding means inadequate health care, untreated mental illness, poor sanitation, limited rehabilitation, and greater risk of torture and ill treatment. And that is why prison reform also means improving prison conditions. We need modern prison rules that reflect Bangkok and Mandela rules. We need proper health care. We need effective implementation of the Safia Bano judgment when dealing with prisoners with mental health. We need stronger complaint mechanisms and transparent and timely mercy petition procedures. The judiciary has demonstrated its leadership by convening us all here today. But, as the Chief Justice said, prison reform is a shared responsibility. Prison departments, police, human rights institutions, provincial governments, we all shape a different part of a prisoner's journey. And reform will only work if we work together. This conference gives us a rare opportunity to move from reports and recommendations to action. If at the end of the conference we leave with one shared commitment, let it be this: that no Pakistani will have to wait 17 years to be declared innocent, that no child should become a middle-aged man before the justice system recognizes his rights, that no family should ever again have to hear that justice finally arrived, but after it was too late. We cannot give Mazhar Hussain back the 17 years he lost. We cannot return Muhammad Iqbal, the youth that was taken from him. But if today we can ensure that these stories are not repeated, that would be the legacy worthy of this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for our thought-provoking and comprehensive forward-looking roadmap. Ladies and gentlemen, prison reform succeeds when national vision is supported by provincial leadership. I now have the distinct honor to request the Honorable Chief Minister of Balochistan to kindly come forward and address the audience.
Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Honorable Chief Justice, Supreme Court of Pakistan, Honorable Judges, Honorable Federal Minister for Law and Justice, fellow Chief Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It is a privilege to address the National Conference on Prison Reforms. The subject that brings us together speaks to the very conscience of our society, how we treat those who have fallen on the wrong side of the law, and whether we have the courage to believe that people can change. I begin by acknowledging the directions of the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan and the National Judicial Policy Making Committee under the National Prison Reforms Action Plan. Balochistan has taken these directions not as a formality, but as a charter for change. One, we pursuing with the national United Nations standards, minimum rules for the treatment of prisoners, the Nelson Mandela rules as our benchmark. For too long, our prisons were understood as little more than places of confinement. Today, I am proudly to say that Balochistan has chosen a different path. A fundamental shift from a custodial model towards a modern correctional service framework focused on rehabilitation, reintegration, and public safety. Prison reforms remains a priority area of our government's justice sector agenda. In close liaison with the Honorable High Court and the Honorable Chief Justice of Balochistan, we are implementing a comprehensive program to strengthen correctional administration across the province. This includes the effective management of 4 central prisons, 8 district prisons, and 22 judicial lockups ranging from Barkhan to Pasni and Jungle Piralizi to Jalmaksi. In line with the directions of the Honorable Chief Justice, practical measures have been initiated to place all judicial lockups under the operational management of the prison department, ensuring professional custody, improved security, enhanced accountability, and better protection of the rights and dignity of persons in detention. We remain committed to working in partnership with the judiciary to build a correctional system that is secure, humane, and fully aligned with the rule of law. This shift is now anchored in law through the Balochistan Prisons and Correctional Services Act 2026, which replaces our outdated colonial area statute and recognizing rehabilitation and reintegration as core objective of imprisonment itself. What we have already delivered, ladies and gentlemen, let me speak not in promises but in results. Across the 12 prisons of Balochistan, over the last few years, we have put real resources behind reforms. Healthcare, we increased the medicine budget more than 6-fold from rupees 3 million to rupees 20 million, established many labs and dental clinics, expanded the ambulances fleet to 13 and ran TB, HIV, and hepatitis control camps alongside mental health counseling. Infrastructure, Central Prison Gadani has been declared a modern prison under a rupees 1,000 million scheme. New prisons at Loralai, Kila Saifullah, Pashin, and Surab are being added. And a new central prison Quetta is planned to relieve overcrowding. Rehabilitation and digitalization in partnership with UNODC, we digitized prisoner records through the PMIS in 11 prisons, moving from manual registers to real-time dashboards. Vocational trainings in tailoring, computing, handicrafts, and trade is now offered with 8 schools of juveniles. Education and dignity. Inmates now sit examinations from matriculation up to master's level, earning statutory remissions. Over rupees 13 million was raised to pay diyat, fines, and daman for needy petty offenders, and we are building a chapel for our Christians inmates. People and oversight, more than 600 officers and staff were recruited and trained, including on the Nelson Mandela rules and human rights. And a physical training center was established for capacity building. We have also legislated for life beyond the prison walls, the Balochistan Probation and Payroll Act 2026 with a rupees 500 million reformation and reintegration fund. Gives offenders a structured, supervised path back into society. Ladies and gentlemen, what is coming next? Passing a law is the beginning, not the end. Our immediate agenda is clear: to notify the rules and SOPs under the 2026 Act, to roll out the PMIS to every remaining prison, to extend CCTV and risk-based prisoners classification, and to strengthen healthcare, legal aid, and women's prisoners' facilities. We will establish a prison academy in Balochistan for proper pre-induction training and a dedicated women's prison in the province. Looking further ahead, we will expand prison industries and vocational centers, introduce e-monitoring and digital inmate management, established dedicated rehabilitation and de-radicalization programs, develop community correction and non-custodial sentencing, and build partnership with universities, civil society and the private sector for reintegration. A shared responsibilities, ladies and gentlemen. Let me be candid. A society is not made safer merely by keeping people behind walls. It is made safer when those who leave our prisons return as responsible citizens rather than repeat offenders. That is the true measures of justice and the true purpose of the reforms. To protect society, not by confinement alone, but by reforming offenders, reducing relapse, regress, enabling their productive return to the community. This is the national endeavor, and Balochistan is proud to contribute to it. I invite every institution represented here, the courts, the police, the prosecution, the welfare departments, and our partners in civil society and the international community to walk this road with us. I thank the Honorable Chief Justice and the NJPMC for their guidance, the Home Department and the Inspector General of Prisons for their leadership, and all of you for your commitment to this cause. May Allah guide our efforts and grant us success. Pakistan Zindabad.
Thank you, sir, for your thoughtful remarks and for reaffirming Balochistan's commitment to a more humane and effective corrective system. Ladies and gentlemen, meaningful reform is strengthened through shared responsibility and collective action. I now have the honor to invite the Honorable Chief Minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to address the conference.
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم ایاک نعبد و ایاک نستعین. سب سے پہلے چیف جسٹس سپریم کورٹ میرے اپنی قبیلے سے ان کو تمام جتنی بھی یہاں بیٹے ججز ہیں، وکلاء ہیں، ہمارے فیڈرل منسٹرز، چیف منسٹرز مختلف پروونسز کو کہ اور یہاں معزز حاضرین، خواتین و حضرات، السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. سر کا خفاقی کو نا یہ شعر خوب ہوئی ہم کا نا. میں اپنی قبیلے کی حیثیت سے چیف جسٹس صاحب کے لیے، کیونکہ میں آج اسپیشلی ان کے لیے آیا ہوں، تو ایک شعر عرض ہیں: جو آنا چاہو ہزار رستے، نہ آنا چاہو عذر ہزاروں، دشوار رستے ناساز طبیعت خراب موسم. آج انتہائی خوشی کی بات ہے، ہم یہاں پر ایک بہترین کام کے لیے سب اکٹھے ہوئے ہیں، جو سپریم کورٹ کی ریفارمز کمیٹی ہیں جن کو آنریبل چیف جسٹس صاحب ہیڈ کر رہے ہیں. ہم خیبر پختونخوا میں جیل اصلاحات کر رہے ہیں کیونکہ قیدیوں کی بھی حقوق ہوتے ہیں، وہ بھی اس معاشرے کا حصہ ہے. جو ہمارے چھوٹے جرائم میں لوگ جاتے ہیں جیلوں میں اور وہاں پر ان کے ساتھ رویہ غلط ہوتا ہے تو وہ بڑے مجرم بن کر ہی باہر نکلتے ہیں. تو اس کے لیے ضروری ہے کہ جیلوں میں اصلاحات لائی جائیں اور بہترین اصلاحات ہوں. تو اسی حوالے سے ہم خیبر پختونخوا کی حکومت، کیونکہ وہاں پر لا اینڈ آرڈر کی سچویشن ہیں، دہشت گردی بدقسمتی سے تقریباً 21-22 سال سے وہاں پر پنپتی رہی ہیں. تو جو دہشت گرد اریسٹ ہوتے ہیں وہ بھی ان جیلوں میں ہوتے ہیں. تو جیل کی سیکیورٹی کو ہم نے مستحکم بنایا ہے اور بہترین قسم کی سیکیورٹی دے رہے ہیں تاکہ باقی جو ہمارے قیدی ہیں وہ بھی محفوظ رہیں. اس کے ساتھ ساتھ جو ہمارے قیدی ہیں ان کے لیے ہم نے جیل میں ہنرمندی کے پروگرام کا انعقاد بھی کیا ہے، وہ ہنر سیکھتے ہیں. پھر ان کے لیے وہاں پر انڈسٹری بنائی ہے جو ہمارے پریزنٹ ڈپارٹمنٹ کے انڈر چلتی ہے. تو جو قیدی ہمارے وہاں پر ہنر سیکھتے ہیں وہ وہاں پر مختلف چیزیں بناتے ہیں جو مارکیٹ میں پھر سیل ہوتی ہے، اور ان سے جیل میں قید ہو کر بھی پیسے کماتے ہیں اور اپنے فیملیز کے لیے جو ہیں روزگار پیسے بیچتے ہیں. اس کے ساتھ ساتھ ہم نے ای وزٹ کی سہولت بھی ان کو دی ہے کہ ایسے قیدی جو یہاں پشاور میں، ڈی آئی خان میں یا مختلف جیلوں میں ہوتے ہیں اور ان کے فیملی ممبرز غریب ہونے کی وجہ سے ان کے پاس وزٹ نہیں کر سکتے، تو ہم نے ای وزٹ کی سہولت وہاں ان کو فراہم کی ہے. یہاں اس موقع سے فائدہ اٹھاتے ہوئے میں چیف جسٹس صاحب سے ریکویسٹ کروں گا کہ ہمارے لیڈر جناب عمران احمد خان نیازی صاحب کے بھی بیٹے پاکستان میں نہیں ہیں، وہ باہر ہیں، تو ان سے بھی بات ان کی نہیں ہوتی تو برائے مہربانی ان کے لیے جو ہیں اپنے بیٹوں سے ٹیلی فونک رابطے کا یا ویڈیو لنک پر بات کرنے کا بندوبست کیا جائے. جیلوں کی ڈیجیٹلائزیشن ہم کر رہے ہیں. شفافیت اور انصاف کے فروغ کے لیے تمام قیدیوں کے ریکارڈ کو پریزن انفارمیشن مینجمنٹ سسٹم کے ذریعے ڈیجیٹلائز کر دیا گیا ہے. مزید برآں اس نظام کو فوجداری نظام انصاف کے دیگر متعلقہ اداروں بالخصوص عدلیہ کے ساتھ بھی منسلک کیا جا رہا ہے تاکہ معلومات کے تبادلے اور مقدمات کی پیروی کے عمل کو مزید مؤثر بنایا جا سکے. اس طرح آن لائن پروڈکشن ورچوئل کورٹس وہ بھی بنائی گئی ہیں جو ہمارے ایسے قیدی ہوتے ہیں جن کے لیے خطرہ ہوتا ہے باہر، تو ان کے لیے ورچوئل کورٹس کا بندوبست بھی کیا گیا ہے اور ماہانہ تقریباً 7500 قیدی اس میں پیش ہوتے ہیں. ماڈل انٹرویو رومز ہم نے بنائے ہیں خیبر پختونخوا میں کیونکہ قیدیوں کو باعزت طریقے سے اپنے پیاروں سے ملاقات کی سہولت فراہم کرنے کے لیے جیلوں میں بین الاقوامی معیار کے ملاقاتی کمرے قائم کیے گئے ہیں جہاں لوگ ایک باوقار اور مناسب ماحول میں اپنے عزیزوں سے ملاقات کر سکتے ہیں اور تقریباً روزانہ 800 ملاقاتی مستفید ہوتے ہیں. چیف جسٹس صاحب کو میں ایک اور بھی ریکویسٹ کرنا چاہوں گا کیونکہ میں ایک صوبے کا وزیر اعلیٰ ہوں اور اڈیالہ جیل کے باہر بہت سخت گرمی ہوتی ہے اور وہاں پر ہم جب بھی جاتے ہیں تو دھوپ میں ہی کھڑے ہوتے ہیں، تو وہاں بھی قیدیوں کے انتظار گاہ کے لیے ایک بہترین ماحول ہونا چاہیے تاکہ گرمی سے بچ سکیں. اور اگر پھر ملنے نہ دیا جائے تو برائے مہربانی عمران خان صاحب کی بہنوں پر واٹر کینن اور آنسو گیس کا استعمال نہ کیا جائے. ڈرگ ریہیبلیٹیشن سینٹر یہ بہت ضروری ہے کیونکہ وہاں پر ہمارے جو ڈرگ ایڈکٹ ہیں جب ان کو اریسٹ کیا جاتا ہے تو ان کے لیے ہم نے ریہیب سینٹرز بنائے ہیں جیلوں میں اور وہاں پر ان کی بہترین دیکھ بھال ہوتی ہے. ان کو تمام تر سہولیات دی جاتی ہیں جس طرح باہر اسپتالوں میں دی جاتی ہے اور الحمدللہ ابھی تک تقریباً ہم 1614 قیدیوں کا وہاں علاج کر سکے ہیں اور اس کے نتائج جو ہیں مثبت آئے ہیں اور بہت بہترین آئے ہیں اور وہ الحمدللہ معاشرے کا بہترین فرد باہر آ کر نکلا ہے. قیدیوں کو صحت کی بنیادی سہولیات ہم نے خیبر پختونخوا میں تمام قیدیوں کے لیے صحت کی سہولیات وہاں پر جو ہمارے ہاسپٹلز ہیں جہاں پر علاج ان کا ہوتا ہے ان کو بھی جدید آلات دیے ہیں، بہترین میڈیسن دیے ہیں، بہترین ڈاکٹرز. لیکن پھر بھی اگر کوئی قیدی مطمئن نہ ہو وہاں پر علاج کرنے سے تو ہم باہر کے ڈاکٹرز جو ان کے ذاتی معالج ہے یا جو جس ڈاکٹر کا وہ نام لیتے ہیں ان کو آنے دیتے ہیں اور وہ ان سے ملتے ہیں. پھر اگر اس سے بھی مطمئن نہ ہو تو ان کو جیل سے باہر اسپتال میں علاج کرنے لاتے ہیں. اور تو یہاں بھی میں موقع کا فائدہ اٹھاتے ہوئے عمران خان صاحب کی صحت بہت خراب ہے. عمران خان صاحب کی صحت جیل میں رہ کر خراب ہے تو یہ انتظامیہ کی غفلت ہے کیونکہ 85% آنک ان کی تقریباً ضائع ہو چکی ہے جو رپورٹ کیا جا رہا ہے. تو میں چیف جسٹس صاحب سے ریکویسٹ کروں گا کہ عمران خان صاحب سے ان کے ذاتی ڈاکٹرز اور ان کی فیملی کی ملاقات ہونے دیں, تاکہ پوری قوم کو پتہ چلے کہ عمران خان صاحب کی طبیعت وہاں کیسے ہیں. اور اگر کیونکہ یہ ہر قیدی کی, عمران خان صاحب ابھی ناحق قیدی ہیں تو اس کے بھی حقوق ہیں, تو ان کو ان کے ذاتی ڈاکٹرز سے ملایا جائے, ان کی فیملی سے ملایا جائے. اگر فرض کریں وہ مطمئن نہ ہو تو باہر ہسپتال میں جو ان کی فیملی کہتی ہے تو ان کے مطابق ان کا علاج ہو سکے. خیبر پختونخوا عمران خان صاحب کی ویژن کے مطابق اپنے قیدیوں کو بہترین سہولیات دے رہی ہے, اور انشاءاللہ یہ ریفارمز آگے بھی جائیں گی. جس طرح یہ کانفرنس ہے پریزن ریفارم کے حوالے سے, یہاں سے جو بھی سجیشن آئے گی انشاءاللہ تعالیٰ اس پر من و عمل کریں گے. لیکن یہاں پر آخر میں یہ کہنا ضرور چاہوں گا کہ پاکستان میں تقریباً ہر چیز پر کام ہو چکا ہے. ہمارا کنسٹیٹیوشن جو ہم تمام کو جوڑے رکھا ہے, فیڈرل کی بہترین چیز جو تمام فیڈرل اکائیوں کو جوڑے رکھتی ہے وہ کنسٹیٹیوشن ہے. لیکن کنسٹیٹیوشن پر بھی یہاں عمل نہیں ہوتا. رائٹ ٹو اسمبل, ہر بندے کا حق ہے کہ وہ جلسہ کرے, احتجاج کرے, کیونکہ جمہوریت ہے, امریت تو ہے نہیں. لیکن یہاں پر احتجاج ہوتا ہے یا جلسہ ہوتا ہے تو وہاں FIR ہو جاتی ہیں. جس طرح محمد اقبال صاحب کی اگزامپل انہوں نے دی, تو ہمارے 18 سال سے کم عمر لڑکوں پر 780A کے پرچے درج کیے گئے ہیں. مطلب اتنا چھوٹا بچہ اگر آج سے آپ اس کو دہشت گرد ڈکلیئر کر دیں تو پھر آگے وہ جا کر کیا کرے گا؟ وہ تو اس ملک کا اثاثہ ہے. فریڈم آف سپیچ کنسٹیٹیوشن ہمیں اجازت دیتا ہے, آپ ذرا بولیں پھر آپ کو لگ پتہ جائے گا. کوئی بول ہی نہیں سکتا, جو بولتے ہیں وہ ملک سے باہر چلے گئے ہیں یا جیلوں میں ہیں, کوئی بول نہیں سکتا. تو کہنے کا مقصد یہ ہے کہ یہ ریفارمز بھی بہترین ہیں لیکن ان کو امپلیمنٹ کیا جائے, اور شروعات جو ہیں وہ اڈیالہ جیل سے ہونی چاہیے. شکریہ.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable address and for sharing your government's vision for prison reform. Ladies and gentlemen, lasting change is achieved through innovation, collaboration, and forward-looking leadership. I now have the honor to invite the Honorable Chief Minister of Punjab to kindly come forward and address the conference.
Before I begin my talk, may I please have the permission to play a video? Can we have the video, please?
Prisons are among the most complex institutions of the state. Behind their walls are not merely inmates, but human lives, legal processes, staff, visitors, and the constant responsibility of governance. Punjab's prison network comprises 45 correctional facilities, designed for around 39,200 inmates, but currently housing nearly 69,000 prisoners, an occupancy rate of almost 170%. This makes Punjab's prison system one of the largest and most pressured custodial systems in the country. Since 2024, under the vision of Chief Minister Punjab, prisons are being reimagined, not only as places of confinement, but as institutions of correction, rehabilitation, welfare, and human dignity. Across Punjab's prisons, inmates are being trained in 23 different trades through partnerships with TEVTA and PVTC. At the same time, 15 prison industries are operating across the system, producing a wide range of items and developing practical, market-oriented skills. These are not merely activities inside prison. They are pathways to discipline, productivity, earning potential, and employability after release. Punjab Prisons is also taking prison craftsmanship beyond prison walls through online marketing platforms, including Daraz, as well as static and mobile display centers. Prison reform cannot be measured by infrastructure alone. It must also be measured by what happens to the mind, the family, and the future of the prisoner. Wider health reforms are underway. Prison hospitals across Punjab are being revamped at a cost of 788 million rupees to improve healthcare facilities for prisoners. All prisoners are screened for TB, HIV, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C. During 2025, 6,396 prisoners were referred to outside government hospitals, while 65 prisoners were admitted to the Punjab Institute of Mental Health, Lahore. Mental health support has been strengthened under the Chief Minister's Prisoners Health Program, supported by color therapy, model barracks, recreational spaces, and the One Barrack One Library initiative, with more than 40,000 books across the system. Religious observances are being facilitated to sustain spiritual connection and emotional well-being. Adult literacy centers across all jails are extending basic education to around 30,000 illiterate prisoners under the Chief Minister's Prisoners Literacy Program. Sports are being used as a reform tool through indoor and outdoor facilities, gymnasiums, and inter-jail competitions that encourage discipline, health, teamwork, and morale. For women prisoners and accompanying children, dignity and care are being strengthened. A women jail in Multan is already functional, while 3 new women jails in Lahore, Faisalabad, and Rawalpindi have been completed and are ready for operationalization. For juveniles, Punjab has dedicated institutional arrangements, including Borstal institutions at Faisalabad and Bahawalpur, along with designated juvenile barracks in other prisons, focused on education, character building, psychosocial development, and reintegration. Living conditions are also being improved through model barracks, better toilets, kitchens, water quality, hygiene systems, barber shops, and dignity services. The establishment of wheat grinding units in all prisons has saved approximately 490 million rupees in dietary charges in 1 year. Another first is the establishment of Chief Minister's Prisoners' Welfare Stores in all prisons. Audio and video calling facilities are available across prisons. Family rooms are being facilitated. Interview sheds are being revamped. Visiting area SOPs have been notified. In 2025 alone, 1,827 prisoners were shifted to their home districts. The Mulakat app, introduced in October 2025 for online advance booking of inmate meetings, has already facilitated more than 45,000 visitors. Free legal aid committees formed in 2024 have benefited around 5,000 prisoners till early 2026. Free biometric verification of prisoners for court affairs has also been started under the orders of the Honorable Lahore High Court. On infrastructure, Punjab is addressing the defining challenge of capacity versus occupancy. Prison projects at Nankana Sahib and Samundri are near completion, and new prison complexes have been planned at Lahore and Sialkot, with future projects at Chakwal, Chiniot, and Murray. Additional barracks are being constructed in 10 jails to accommodate 5,376 prisoners. For staff capacity, the Punjab Prison Staff Training College, Sahiwal, has trained more than 2,000 officers and officials in 2 years. Punjab Prisons is also moving towards sustainability. 5 prisons in DG Khan, Faisalabad, Miawali, Lahore, and Pindi Bhatia have already been solarized. Another 13 prisons are planned under ADP 2026 to 27, covering nearly 2/3 of the total prison population. Security and technology are being modernized through the Safe Jails Punjab project, including IT-based surveillance, AI-enabled centralized monitoring, under-vehicle surveillance systems, panic buttons, facial recognition cameras, body and thermal cameras, X-ray body scanning machines, and VMS software. The integrated criminal justice system is creating linkages between prisons, police, public prosecution, probation and parole, and courts. Punjab's correctional system is leaving behind a legacy of confinement and moving toward a modern vision of correction: secure, humane, disciplined, and hopeful. Under the leadership of the Chief Minister Punjab, Maryam Nawaz Sharif, prisons are being transformed into institutions of rehabilitation, dignity, technology, and reform. This is Punjab's new correctional vision: security with humanity, custody with purpose, and justice with hope.
Thank you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Honorable, revered Chief Justice of Pakistan, Honorable Judges of the Supreme Court of Pakistan, Honorable Chief Justices and Judges of the Superior Judiciary, my fellow Chief Ministers of Sindh, Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Honorable Federal Minister for Law and Justice, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan, for your wonderful, gracious, and generous hospitality. I was watching you switching seats, trying to be with your fraternity and coming back to your guests. I really do appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, it is both a profound privilege and an absolute honor to address this distinguished gathering at the National Conference on Prison Reforms, convened under the guidance and leadership of the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan. I commend the Law and Justice Commission of Pakistan for bringing together all stakeholders to deliberate upon an issue that lies at the very heart of justice, human dignity, and rule of law. Allow me at the outset to pay tribute to the Superior Judiciary of Pakistan for its unwavering commitment to constitutionalism, the protection of fundamental rights, and its continuous efforts to improve the administration of justice. I must also appreciate and admire the first woman Chief Justice of Lahore High Court, who has been relentlessly working to deliver speedy justice and end the decades-long backlog. And Madam, I really commend you for that. This is no mean feat, so hats off to you. Honorable Chief Justice, you began by sharing your anecdotes. I too have many anecdotes to share, and I would request the august House not to view this as anything political. I stand before you today not only as a Chief Minister, not only as a Chief Executive of the biggest province of Pakistan, but I stand before you as someone who has looked at prison walls not merely from the outside, but from behind them. And the reforms that I will be talking about today stem from my own personal experiences. I have lived them personally, experienced them firsthand, and that experience, Your Honor, changed me forever. It changed the way I think about justice. It changed the way I understand the responsibility of state towards those in custody. Most importantly, it reminded me that a prison sentence should never become a sentence against human dignity. Your Honor, every reform that we have introduced carries a memory. Every policy that I'm making today carries a lesson learned behind the prison walls, and I did not want these experiences to remain my personal story. I wanted them to become institutional reforms so that no prisoner, regardless of who they are or where they come from, has to endure avoidable suffering. When we speak of prisons, we must look beyond walls. bars, and security arrangements. A prison is not merely a place of confinement. It is a reflection of the values of a society and the effectiveness of its justice system. The manner in which we treat those in our custody ultimately measures our commitment to justice, to fairness, to compassion, to respect, and to human dignity. Punjab operates one of the largest correctional systems in Pakistan, comprising 45 prisons that currently house more than 69,000 inmates, close to 70,000, against an authorized capacity of approximately 39,000. Yet the challenge is not just overcrowding. Nearly 3/4 of our prison population consists of under-trial prisoners. The reality reminds us that prison reforms cannot be pursued in isolation. It must go hand in hand with broader reforms across the criminal justice system. For me, however, these reforms, as I just said, are not merely administrative decisions. Every reform, as I said, carries a memory. Every policy has a human story behind it. My story, my own story, story of thousands. Every improvement reminds me of something I witnessed or experienced myself firsthand. Honorable Chief Justice, one day while I was in Kot Lakhpat jail, my blood sugar suddenly dropped. I called for help. I shouted as much as I could with that frail condition. Nobody came. Nobody heard my screaming. I ransacked my cell and I found this little glass bottle of some dry eatable which was mixed with jaggery. Good tha usme. And when I tried to get it, I was very frail and weak, and because my blood sugar had dropped, I was shivering. So when I tried to reach for it, it slipped from my hands and fell on the floor. And the whole eatable was scattered on the floor, along with small, sharp pieces of glass. I had no other source of sugar. I had to eat that because my body was asking for sugar. And I remember eating the pieces of those broken glass with that jaggery. The moment taught me something I have never forgotten. It taught me how a helpless prisoner can feel, what the prisoner can feel even when the smallest emergency goes unattended, goes unheard. It reminded me that once a prisoner enters state custody, he or she becomes entirely dependent on the state, not only for security, but life itself. The experience remained with me long after I left prison. It became one of the reasons I introduced emergency call buttons across Punjab and alarm bells, panic buttons inside prison cells throughout Punjab. Today, every prison cell is equipped with these emergency systems so that no inmate is ever left without a way to call for immediate assistance. And the assistance comes. When someone calls for help, help must arrive. Human life cannot wait behind locked doors. A prison sentence should never mean abandonment. I experienced what it means to live in a space where the room and the washroom become one. I did not know where to put my janamaz for prayer because half of my room was a room and half of it was a bathroom without any partition. Privacy completely disappeared. Personal dignity faded. even those basic standards of hygiene became a daily struggle. Including my opponents, my dear friends, regardless of the offense they've committed, should be deprived of basic respect, of basic dignity, of basic cleanliness, of basic facilities. These experiences that I'm sharing with you strengthened my resolve to improve living conditions across the prisons of Punjab. We have made sanitation, clean washrooms, proper ventilation, better accommodation, and access to essential hygiene supplies a priority. For women inmates in particular, Excellencies, hygiene products are not just a privilege. They are a constitutional right and a matter of basic human dignity. And those days in prison, 4 to 5 months the first time, and about 4 months the second time, taught me my life's greatest lessons, and valuing the family is the foremost. For someone behind bars, ladies and gentlemen, a meeting with loved ones is not merely a visit. It is often the reminder that life continues beyond prison walls. My daughter, my youngest daughter, who has just finished her graduation, was only 13 years old then. And I remember every time she used to walk into the meeting room, she used to leave crying. And as a mother, I know that every mother sitting here, every woman sitting here would identify with that. It was a very difficult time. Prisons also taught me the pain of separation in its cruelest form. While both my father and I were in the same prison, both times, my mother became seriously ill. For days, neither of us could speak to her. We could not sit beside her, hold her hand, or comfort her in her final moments. She left this world while we remained behind prison walls. Today is her birthday, Your Honor, and it reminds me of what she used to say. She used to say in Punjabi, "Ya ra pe aa jaane, ya wa pe aa jaane." Jis pe guzarti hai, wohi janta hai. And she used to also say, "Jis tan lage, so tan jaane." So, आपको पता है कि ये जो बातें मैं आज कर रही हूँ, जिन रिफॉर्म्स की आज मैं बात कर रही हूँ, उसकी बेसिस क्या है? It's not just a governance decision. And that led to this, to introduce technology-driven systems, including online appointment facilities for prison visits, structured telephone access, video call services that is now available to every prisoner across Punjab, irrespective of his or her status. Across Punjab, prisons have witnessed significant improvements in visitation facilities, family interaction areas, transport arrangements, and modern audio and video communication systems. At the same time, we have undertaken an ambitious program of infrastructure development, new correctional facilities, additional barracks, specialized Boston institutions for juvenile offenders. एक और चीज़ मैं आपके साथ शेयर करना चाहती हूँ, ये जो juvenile jails का concept है, where I was housed in Adiala jail, just next to that was a juvenile prison. And रात को about 9, 9:30 बजे उनके चीखने की, उनके वो जिसको मदद के लिए पुकारने की मुझे आवाज़ें आती थीं. तो now I understand what it feels like. So dedicated correctional facilities for women, modern training institutions are being established to reduce overcrowding and create a safer, more dignified environment for everyone living and working inside our prisons. Another anecdote. During my imprisonment, books became my closest companions, Jainamaz and books. For hours non-stop, I would read, searching for hope, strength, and perspective within their pages. And I never liked fiction, but that was the only time I actually really enjoyed fiction, because it gave me a flight from reality. Reading reminded me that although my body was confined, my mind was still free. Yet, I saw that many prison libraries contained outdated, worn-out books that no longer reflected the needs of today's readers. I finished the entire library. And then what happened? I was asking for books and there were no books. So a woman prisoner from Eastern Europe, housed next to my death cell, would quietly pass novels beneath this narrow gap separating the two walls. And those were thrillers and novels. I don't know where she would be today, but I owe this to her. So these memories inspired us to modernize prison libraries throughout Punjab. Today, libraries are being enriched with updated books, educational resources, literature, and learning materials that encourage personal growth, flight of fancy, and intellectual development. When I looked around the prison, Excellencies, and my dear lordships, I realized that too many inmates were defined only by their conviction. I wanted our correctional system to see something more. Every prisoner remains a human being with the capacity to learn, to change, and to rebuild a meaningful life. That belief has shaped my reform agenda. And Excellency, we have also revitalized prison industries so that inmates can learn productive trades while contributing meaningfully to economic activity. By connecting these industries with modern marketing platforms and digital marketplaces, we are creating genuine opportunities for rehabilitation through dignified work and rather than dependency. And Your Honor, I've brought 3 beautiful things made by the prisoners for you: vases, a very small coffee table, and a carpet woven, in the confines of 4 walls. Please do see that. It's beautiful. And every prisoner must be given a genuine opportunity to return to society as a better citizen than when they entered. Healthcare is another lesson prison has taught me. And therefore, Government of Punjab has made healthcare one of the cornerstones of prison reforms. Through the Chief Minister's Prisoners' Health Program, comprehensive screening and treatment systems have been introduced for communicable diseases, mental health conditions, and substance use disorders. Jail hospitals are being upgraded, and partnerships with leading hospitals and healthcare institutions have been strengthened to ensure professional medical supervision and continuity of care. Mental health is a very, very important subject. I had to endure 24 hours of solitary confinement. They would knock my window, place my food outside, and then lock the door and leave for another 24 hours. And I know how that affects your mental health, Your Honor. Therefore, this subject is not only dear to my heart, but it has also received equal attention from me. Punjab has embraced digital transformations to make prison administration more transparent, accountable, and efficient. Digitization of prisoner records, biometric verification systems, as you saw in the video, integration with national database, and the Safe Jails Punjab project are strengthening governance while enhancing the safety of inmates, prison staff, and visitors alike simultaneously. As we move forward, my dear lordships, we continue to look forward to the superior judiciary not only as an institutional partner, but also as a source of guidance and inspiration. Judiciary's steadfast commitment to safeguarding constitutional rights and protecting human dignity provides the moral compass for all of us engaged in public service. Together, we can build a correctional system that protects society while respecting the dignity of every individual entrusted to the care of the state. Our vision is clear, Excellencies. Prisons must no longer be a place where hope dies. They must become places where lives can begin, places where education replaces ignorance, where skills replace dependency, where rehabilitation replaces despair, where accountability is balanced with compassion, where justice is strengthened by mercy. Every reform we have introduced is rooted in one simple principle, and that is human dignity. May Allah the Almighty guide us in our collective endeavor to build a correctional system that reflects the highest values of our Constitution, protects the dignity of every individual, and strengthens the foundation of justice in Pakistan. May He grant us the wisdom to ensure that every prison becomes a place where reform is possible, hope is restored, and humanity is never forgotten. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Honorable Chief Justice. Thank you, Honorable Lordships. Pakistan Zindabad.
Thank you, ma'am, for your thoughtful remarks and for your government's commitment to modernizing correctional services. Ladies and gentlemen, the success of reform ultimately rests upon our collective resolve to build institutions that uphold justice and human dignity. I now have the honor to invite the Honorable Chief Minister of Sindh to address the conference.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan, Justice Yahya Afridi, Honorable Federal Minister for Law and Justice, my fellow Chief Ministers, Judges of the Supreme Court, Chief Justices of the High Court, distinguished delegates, members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives of the judiciary, executive, law enforcement agencies, civil society, academia, and development partners. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and a very good afternoon. It's indeed a privilege to participate in this National Conference on Prison Reforms convened by the National Judicial Policy Making Committee. I express my sincere gratitude to the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan and the Law and Justice Commission of Pakistan for bringing together key stakeholders to deliberate on an issue that lies at the intersection of justice, governance, public safety, and human dignity. When the state lawfully deprives an individual of liberty, it assumes responsibility for that individual's safety, dignity, health, and opportunity for reform. A prisoner may lose freedom of movement, but not his humanity. The success of a correctional system is measured not only by the secure custody of the inmate, but also by its ability to prepare individuals for lawful and productive reintegration into the society. Across the world, correctional philosophy has evolved from punishment and isolation towards rehabilitation, reintegration, and reduction of recidivism. International instruments such as the United Nations standard minimum rules for treatment of prisoners, the Nelson Mandela rules, the Bangkok rules, the Beijing rules emphasize humane treatment, healthcare, rehabilitation, and special protection for vulnerable groups. Recent recommendations of the United Nations human rights bodies have similarly called for reducing excessive pre-trial detention, improving prison conditions, and strengthening alternates to incarceration. Prison populations are shaped by the efficiency of investigation, prosecution, legal aid, and court processes. Every delayed investigation, adjourned hearing, or prolonged trial ultimately increases pressure on the correctional institutions. Prison reforms, therefore, cannot be pursued in isolation. It requires a whole of the government and whole of the justice system approach. The Constitution recognizes that effective administration of justice requires adequate judicial capacity. Articles 176 and 192 of our Constitution provide for judicial strength in the superior courts, while the strength of the district judiciary is determined by the provincial governments in consultation with the respective high courts. Timely justice, therefore, requires continued investment in judicial institutions at all levels. The scale of challenge is evident from the fact that more than 2.6 million cases are currently pending before courts across Pakistan. Reducing prison overcrowding and under-trial detention therefore requires sustained strengthening of judicial institutions alongside correctional reforms. Our objective should not simply be to build more prisons. Our objective should be to build a more efficient, humane, and rehabilitative justice system that protects society while preserving human dignity. These principles are fully aligned with the reforms trajectory being pursued in the province of Sindh. I'll quickly take you through the Sindh reforms journey from prisons to correction. Ladies and gentlemen, recognizing that the modern correctional system must go beyond custody and confinement, the government of Sindh undertook a comprehensive reform of its prison administration framework. This reform was driven by a simple but important principle. Prisons should not merely punish, they should rehabilitate, reform, and reintegrate individuals into society as productive citizens. In 2019, Sindh enacted the Sindh Prisons and Correction Services Act, making a significant shift from the traditional prison administration model towards a modern correction-based framework. Through this legislation, Sindh became the first province in Pakistan to formally adopt a modern corrections-based framework that recognizes imprisonment not merely as a means of secure custody, but as an opportunity for rehabilitation, behavioral response, and successful reintegration into society. The legislation places prisoner welfare, healthcare, education, vocational training, legal aid, community corrections, family support mechanisms, and institutional oversight at the heart of prison administration. This reflects a progressive shift from a purely custodial model to a comprehensive correction and rehabilitative approach. To support implementation, Sindh established institutional mechanisms such as the Prison Policy Board and the Prison Management Board, bringing together relevant government departments, elected representatives, civil society, and subject experts to strengthen governance, transparency, and accountability. Today, the Sindh Prisons and Correction Services administer 23 correction facilities across the province. These institutions currently house approximately 27,000 inmates against an authorized capacity of around 14,000. This is the story of Pakistan, so I don't think this. Most significantly, which is important and was earlier pointed out by the chairperson of the Human Rights Commission, is that 84% of these inmates, higher than the national average, because I saw the national average was 74%, 84% of inmates are under trial prisoners, which means that approximately 23,000 individuals are awaiting trial. This also means that only a small proportion of the prison population comprises convicted prisoners, while the overwhelming majority remains within the criminal justice process awaiting completion of trial. These figures demonstrate that overcrowding is not primarily a prison management challenge, It is fundamentally a criminal justice system challenge. Every delayed investigation, every avoidable adjournment, every prolonged trial, and every case in which bail, probation, parole, or alternative sentencing mechanisms are not effectively utilized contribute directly to prison overcrowding. The issue therefore requires coordinated action by police, prosecution services, legal aid institutions, prisons, probation authorities, and the judiciary. Sindh remains fully committed to supporting all measures aimed at reducing unnecessary pretrial detention while ensuring public safety and the effective administration of justice. Despite these challenges, Sindh has continued to pursue an ambitious reform agenda. Over the last few years, Sindh has undertaken significant investments in correctional infrastructure. A new district prison at Thatta became operational in December 2025, while the Malir Prison Extension Project is nearing completion and will provide additional capacity to ease overcrowding. Land has also been identified for a high-security prison in Thatta and a new central prison at Shahid Benazirabad. Most significantly, planning is in an advanced stage for the Karachi prison complex at Dhabeji, envisioned as a modern correctional facility capable of accommodating approximately 12,000 inmates. Upon completion, it will represent one of the largest correctional infrastructure projects in Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, the ultimate purpose of prison reform is not incarceration, it is transformation. Rehabilitation remains the cornerstone of Sindh's correction philosophy. Vocational and skill development programs are being expanded across correctional facilities, including training in sewing, carpentry, handicraft, technical skills, digital literacy, and other employable trades. Special programs for women inmates focus on livelihood opportunities, financial inclusion, and post-release reintegration. Sindh has also sought to place education at the center of rehabilitation efforts. Libraries have been established in prisons, and inmates are encouraged to pursue matriculation, intermediate, graduate, and virtual university programs. Educational achievements are recognized through remission incentives under the new law, encouraging learning, self-improvement, and constructive engagement. Education and literacy programs are being strengthened to ensure that incarceration becomes an opportunity for learning and personal development rather than a pathway to further exclusion. Children residing with incarcerated mothers also being provided educational and developmental support to ensure that they are not deprived of opportunities because of circumstances beyond their control. Our objective is not simply to manage prisons. Our objective is to reduce reoffending, restore human potential, and ensure that individuals leaving correctional institutions return to society as responsible and productive citizens. Let me now talk about a program of legal aid, prisoner welfare, and access to justice. Recognizing that access to justice is an essential component of prison reform, the Government of Sindh continues to support the Committee for Welfare of Prisoners, originally established in 2004 by Justice Nasir Aslam Zahid. We subsequently provided and strengthened the statutory foundation under Section 55 of the Sindh Prisons and Correction Services Act 2019. The committee's core philosophy is simple yet powerful. No inmate should remain unrepresented before a court merely because he or she lacks the financial means to engage a legal counsel. Operating across correctional facilities throughout Sindh, the committee serves as an important bridge between prisoners and the justice system. Over the past 2 decades, the committee has represented more than 34,000 prisoners, secured nearly 13,000 bail orders, facilitated the disposal of over 28,000 cases, obtained almost 14,000 acquittals on merit, and conducted more than 16,000 legal aid clinics across Sindh. During the current year alone, the committee filed 1,103 wakalatnamas, secured bail in 273 cases, and obtained 289 acquittals, and facilitated the disposal of 529 cases. These interventions have made a significant contribution towards protecting legal rights, reducing unnecessary detention, and improving access to justice for under-trial prisoners. Beyond legal representation, the committee's mandate has evolved to encompass prisoner welfare, rehabilitation, and reintegration through literacy programs, vocational training, prison paralegal initiatives, digital learning modules, early learning centers for children residing with incarcerated mothers, and specialized programs for women and juveniles. The committee is helping create opportunities for rehabilitation and successful reintegration into society. These initiatives reflect SIND's broader commitment to a correctional system that upholds human dignity, promotes reform, and offers genuine second chance. No correctional system can perform better than the people who operate it. Prison officers perform one of the most challenging public service functions in any society. SIND has therefore invested in institutional capacity building through SIND Prison Staff Training Institute at Hyderabad, which serves as the province's dedicated training institution for prison personnel. Simultaneously, efforts are underway to improve staff welfare and living conditions. Across Sindh, approximately 1,160 residential houses, quarters, and flats have been provided for prison employees, while more than Rs 566 million are being invested in rehabilitation of improvement of staff accommodation. Recruitment processes are being strengthened, training curricula are modernized, and professional development opportunities are being expanded to build a responsive and professional correction service capable of meeting contemporary challenges. Healthcare remains one of the most important dimensions of prison reforms. Overcrowding contributes to communicable diseases, psychological stress, substance abuse, and other vulnerabilities that require systematic intervention. In Sindh, every prisoner undergoes medical examination upon admission, and primary healthcare services are available throughout the correctional system. Recognizing healthcare as a fundamental pillar of correctional reform, Sindh has increased expenditure on medicines by over 37% over the last 4 years, ensuring improved access to essential healthcare services for inmates throughout the correction system. Additionally, 25 new ambulances have recently been procured to strengthen emergency medical response capabilities. The government also allocates approximately Rs 2.64 billion annually for provision of nutritious meals to inmates, reflecting a commitment to prisoner welfare and dignity. Particular attention is being given to mental health services. Mental health remains one of the most neglected aspects of correctional administrations worldwide. Prisoners are screened for mental health condition upon admission and referred to specialized institutions whenever required. Psychiatrists from government hospitals regularly visit correctional facilities to provide clinical support. Furthermore, 12 psychologist positions have already been sanctioned and their recruitment is underway. A dedicated drug rehabilitation and mental health center is also planned within the Malil Prison Extension Project. A correctional system that neglects mental health cannot successfully rehabilitate individuals. The other aspect that we focus on is technology, use of technology, and the future of corrections. Technology is becoming an important enabler of modern correctional governance. Sindh was among the early adopters of prisons digitalization through introduction of Prison Management Information System, which has been operational since 2020. The system enables digital management of prisoner records, case information, visitation records, and institutional data. E-trial facilities are also operational, facilitating video link appearances and improving efficiency in prisoner production before courts. To further strengthen these capabilities, the government has approved an additional Rs 200 million modernization program for the Prison Management Information System. The upgraded platform will support integration with police, prosecution, and judicial institutions, enabling improved coordination, transparency, and evidence-based decision-making. Biometric verification, digitized in-main records, enhanced CCTV coverage, integrated databases, AI-assisted monitoring systems, and command and control mechanisms are gradually transforming correctional administration into a modern, technology-enabled service. The future of correctional governance will increasingly be technologically enabled and data-driven. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to propose a few priorities for consideration as part of the broader prison reform agenda, which can serve as a blueprint for all. First, expanding probation, parole, community service, and other non-custodial alternatives to incarceration. Secondly, strengthening healthcare and mental health services in correctional institutions. Third, accelerating digital integration in prison prosecution and court information systems. Fourth, creating structured pathways for rehabilitation, skills development, employment, and post-release reintegration. And last but not the least, reducing under-trial detention through coordinated reforms across criminal justice system, including police, prosecution, legal aid, and court administration. This would require strengthening judicial capacity through establishment of additional courts, appointment of judges and supporting staff, and adoption of effective case management system to ensure expeditious disposal of criminal cases and reduce the population of under-trial prisoners. These measures can significantly reduce overcrowding, improve correctional outcomes, and strengthen public confidence in the judicial system. Ladies and gentlemen, prison reform is ultimately about the kind of society we aspire to become. A society committed to justice, a society committed to human dignity, a society committed to public safety, a society committed to giving individuals an opportunity to reform and to rebuild their lives. Let us continue building correctional institutions that reflect the aspirations of modern Pakistan. Institutions that are secure yet humane, firm yet fair, accountable yet compassionate. Institutions that protect society while preserving human dignity. Institutions that do not merely confine individuals but help transform lives. Together, we can build a correctional system worthy of our Constitution, our humanitarian value, and a collective commitment to justice. I once again commend the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan, the National Judicial Policy Making Committee, and the Law and Justice Commission of Pakistan for organizing this important conference. May our deliberations today contribute to a safer, more just, and a more humane homeland. Ameen. Thank you very much. Pakistan, Paindabad.
Thank you very much, sir, for an insightful address and for your continued support towards progressive criminal justice reforms. Ladies and gentlemen, today's dialogue has reflected our shared resolve to strengthen Pakistan's criminal justice system through collaboration, coordination, and accountability. To deliver the concluding remarks and to present the conference declaration, it is now my distinct honor to invite the Honorable Federal Minister for Law and Justice.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan, Chairperson, National Commission for Human Rights, Honorable Chief Ministers of all provincial governments in Pakistan, Senior Minister from Punjab, Honorable Judges of the Supreme Court, Honorable Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Azad Jammu Kashmir and Chief Justice of Gilgit-Baltistan, Honorable Chief Justices of the Provincial High Courts, the judges of High Courts from all across Pakistan, Additional Attorney General, Advocate Generals, my leadership from the legal fraternity, chair of the Pakistan Bar Council and the Provincial Bar Councils, members of the diplomatic enclave, government officials, wonderful management of this event from the Law and Justice and National Judicial Policy Making Committee, my fellow lawyers, ladies and gentlemen, I think all of us first applaud Law and Justice Commission under the leadership of Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan for bringing us together for this noble cause. Last week of October 2024, Honorable Chief Justice Pakistan swore an oath, and I was called at his Lahore camp office. I thought I was be served with sweets and it is just a pleasantry meeting. I'll be congratulating him again after the oath-taking ceremony, and we will have general discussion. I was received at the entrance by the Chief Justice. He is always very kind to everyone, not to the Law Minister. The first agenda item, as I recall, was the prison reforms. He straight away started with, यार मुझे तुम्हारी मदद चाहिए, मुझे nominations दो, चारों सूबों से, for prison reforms, because I want that some concrete work should be done. And for a concrete work to be done, we should have data, we should have statistics, and we should have suggestions. And I think it's that background, the journey which was started in October 2024 is culminating today, but I believe it's start of another journey which will be beneficial, which will be a path of light and happiness for those who are not within their families, within their loved one. And sir, it's a great service. Thank you very much for doing all that. I have been told that I have to read the declaration. So I'll be concluding my remarks here. सिर्फ जितने लतीफ़ अंदाज में आफरीदी साहब ने कुछ बातें गवर्नमेंट के मुतल्लिका की हैं, मैं सर उतनी लतीफ़ अंदाज में सिर्फ एज अ स्टूडेंट ऑफ लॉ सर मेरे से रहा नहीं जाता कि कोई सवाल उठे और उसका जवाब ना दिया जाए, और कानून की नज़र में। आफरीदी साहब, मैं ये नहीं कहूँगा कि हमारे सियासतदानों को वो करना चाहिए जो उनके साथ हुआ। वो एक गलत मुहावरा है कि जैसे पढ़े हैं वैसे पढ़ाएंगे। मेरा ख्याल में हमें उससे निकल आना चाहिए। और आपने आज पंजाब की डॉक्यूमेंट्री देखी, हमने आपको सुना, मुराद अली शाह साहब को सुना, सरफराज बुगटी साहब को सुना। सर, I am really touched and impressed the way our provincial governments have taken this task, और पिछले ख़ास तौर पे सर 5, 7, 8 सालों से जो काम शुरू हुआ था उसे गेयर अप किया, और ये 2024 ऑनवर्ड वाकई सर हर जगह से ये खबर आती है, और मैडम चेयरपर्सन विटनेस हैं। ये एक जेल विज़िट से पिंडी और लाहौर की विमेन प्रिजनर से मिलके और उनके सेक्शंस देख के आई, और उन्होंने कहा कि आई एम genuinely impressed by the work. और ये सारे चारों सूबों की ये कहानी है, लेकिन सर अभी बहुत कुछ होने वाला है. आपने जो बात की सर, एक डिस्टिंक्शन है अंडर ट्रायल प्रिजनर की और कन्विक्टेड प्रिजनर्स की. अनफॉर्चुनेटली बीइंग गवर्नमेंट ऑफिशियल्स, बीइंग कस्टोडियन ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, वो चाहे जुडिशरी है चाहे एग्जेक्टिव है, और आइन का जो दिल है आर्टिकल 25 इक्वालिटी, सर उसको सामने रखते हुए कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जो शायद हमें सिलेक्टिव नहीं करनी चाहिए. क्योंकि इस मुल्क में जब नवाज़ शरीफ पाबंद सलासत था तो हज़ारों नवाज़ शरीफ जो थे उसी एज के, उसी रंग के, उसी ज़ात पात के, उसी एजुकेशनल बैकग्राउंड के पाकिस्तान भर की जेलों में कैद थे. और आज अगर इमरान खान साहब किसी वजह से कैद हैं, किसी कोर्ट ऑर्डर की वजह से कैद हैं, तो हज़ारों इमरान खान उसी 70 साल से ज़ायद उम्र के छोटे मोटे आर्ज़ों से, किसी की आँख का मसला है, किसी के दिल का मसला है, उसी एजुकेशनल बैकग्राउंड से हज़ारों की तादाद में हैं. तो आए सर आज मिल के अहद करें कि हमने इमरान खान और नवाज़ शरीफ के लिए कानून नहीं बदलने, हमने उन हज़ारों लोगों के लिए पूरा कल्चर चेंज करना और कानून भी बदलना. आज अहद करके उठेंगे हम यहाँ से, क्योंकि मेरा आइन कहता है कि हम सब आइन की नज़र में, कानून की नज़र में बराबर हैं. तो आपने अच्छा किया, हमें जगाया है चीफ जस्टिस साहब की मौजूदगी में. मैं ये अहद करता हूँ कि आप चारों आएँ. मैं इट्स अ प्रोविंशियल सब्जेक्ट, लेकिन जो कोऑर्डिनेशन के लिए ज़रूरत है, आए जो कॉलोनियल टाइम के प्रिजन रूल्स हैं उन्हें चेंज करें, ताकि कल को किसी मरियम नवाज़ को शीशे की बोतल ना तोड़नी पड़े. मैं बहुत सारी चीज़ों का विटनेस हूँ. तो एक तो सर इस रिजॉल्व के साथ उठती है, मैंने ख्याल है कि अब बहुत कुछ सरकार जा चुका है. सो शैल वी रीड आउट द डेक्लेरेशन जी? आई वाज टोल्ड. ऑल राइट जी. हाँ जी, एक सेकंड सर, इट हैज़ टू बी रेड आउट जी, आई हैव बीन टोल्ड. जी सर, दे शैल बी हियर सर. Yes sir, everyone has a vote sir, and I believe that there is a room for dissension as well in declarations. Sir, ladies and gentlemen, I read out the Islamabad Declaration on Prison Reforms. We, the Chief Ministers of the provinces of Pakistan, convened under the auspices of the National Judicial Policy Making Committee, affirm our shared commitment to a coordinated national effort to reform provincial prison systems. We recognize that Pakistan's prisons are operating under serious strain with overcrowding, a high proportion of under-trial prisoners, inadequate infrastructure, limited access to health care and mental health services, and insufficient opportunities for rehabilitation, education, and vocational training. We acknowledge that these challenges affect not only prison administration, but also access to justice, public safety, human dignity, and rule of law. We reaffirm that all persons deprived of liberty retain their fundamental rights under the Constitution of Pakistan, including the rights to life, dignity, fair trial, and humane treatment. We further recognize Pakistan's obligations under international human rights standards, including those relating to the treatment of prisoners, women in detention, children in conflict with the law, persons with disabilities, and the use of non-custodial measures. We recognize that meaningful and sustained prison reform requires coordinated action across the executive, judiciary, and legislature. While respecting the constitutional roles of each branch of government, we further recognize the provincial governments bear primary responsibility for the administration, resourcing, and reform of prisons. Accordingly, we commit to reducing unnecessary incarceration, particularly of under-trial prisoners, by strengthening access to bail, legal aid, probation, parole, diversion, and other non-custodial alternatives, especially for women, children, persons with disabilities, persons with mental health conditions, and those detained for minor poverty-related or non-violent offenses. 2. Reviewing provincial laws, rules, policies, and administrative practices governing arrest, detention, sentencing, prison management, probation, parole, and rehabilitation with a view to reducing overcrowding and aligning prison administration with constitutional and human rights standards. 3. Improving prison conditions through increased investment in infrastructure, sanitation, nutrition, healthcare, mental health services, complaint redressal, and safeguards against torture, ill treatment, and neglect. 4. Promoting rehabilitation and reintegration of expanding education, vocational training, psychological support, drug treatment, skill development, and post-release support for the persons in custody. 5. Strengthening coordination across the criminal justice system, including prison departments, police, prosecution, probation and parole services, legal aid institutions, health and social welfare departments, and the judiciary to support efficient case processing and timely access to justice. 6. Establishing provincial implementation mechanism to develop and time-bound reform plans, identify priority actions, allocate resources, collect data, and monitor progress against agreed indicators. And last, 7th, reporting regularly on implementation to the agreed National Prison Reform Coordination Mechanism, including progress on reducing overcrowding, improving detention conditions, expanding non-custodial alternatives, and strengthening rehabilitation services. We affirm, मेरा ख्याल में सर आखिरी पैरा पे आप चीफ मिनिस्टर्स आ जाएं क्योंकि ये वादा इनका है जी, आप तशरीफ़ ले आएँ जी। चीफ जस्टिस साहब आप भी सरपरस्ती फरमा दें, आप गवाही देंगे। इधर आ जाए सर, इधर आ। So this is the, ये सर यहाँ पे फिर डिजिटल सिग्नेचर्स हैं, आप इसी के करीब आ जाए। अभी आपकी आखिरी इंफॉर्मेशन मैं पढ़ देता हूँ जी, प्लीज़। And in witness thereof, we are all witness to this affirmation by the Honorable Chief Ministers who are serving Pakistan from Peshawar to Karachi. We affirm that prison reform is not only an administrative necessity, but a constitutional, humanitarian, and public safety imperative. We commit to working together to build a prison system that is lawful, humane, rehabilitative, and consistent with the dignity of every person. You are signing it on 2nd day of July 2026. Sir, please proceed. Sir, signing ceremony to witness kar lein, please.
Thank you very much, Honorable Federal Minister for Law and Justice, and thank you very much, Honorable Chief Ministers. We truly acknowledge your continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, may this declaration mark the beginning of a renewed shared commitment towards strengthening criminal justice system reform in Pakistan. Distinguished guests, as today's proceedings draw to a close, we celebrate more than just the conclusion of a conference. We celebrate our shared commitment towards strengthening Pakistan's criminal justice system through collaboration, through coordination, and through reform. On behalf of Law and Justice Commission of Pakistan, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Honorable Federal Minister for Law and Justice, to the Honorable Chief Ministers, to our distinguished guest speakers, to our development partners, and every participant whose presence has made this today's dialogue, has enriched today's dialogue. I kindly request the distinguished dignitaries to kindly proceed for lunch in the side lobbies. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Allah Hafiz.